All right. So maybe I'll talk shit about your fan bases on today's 2 Decades Too Late podcast. Welcome in, everybody. Oh, yep.
Sick. Well, there's a really good chance, given today's content.
I guess I don't know anything about their... Well, maybe.
The fans suck.
Yeah, fuck you, you millions and millions of people.
So many people.
God. I'm Brad, hanging out with Josh.
Yo.
This is a podcast in which we rate and review an album that is turning 20 years old, mostly metal for whatever it's worth, but super not this week. Josh and I each give a rating of 1 to 5, 4 different parameters for an individual maximum point total of $20. That's two. That's 2 in a row with the Deutsch. And a combined maximum point total of 40. What are we doing this week? Because I am excited to talk about this almost as much as Clutch, but in a completely different way.
So we have a debut album, which I feel like we haven't had in a while.
Oh, I wanted to say Avenged Sevenfold, but they had one before that.
They did. And Terabay was the one I could think of, but that was a jam session.
Yeah.
Or is it? Have we done that? Did we do it?
It was on a jam session, yeah. Okay. It was on the last one.
Sick.
Huh, I can't think of a debut. That seems wrong, though. I feel like we've done a debut.
We've definitely done a debut, but it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, how about that? Interesting. I don't really know what to say about that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Winter Sun.
Yeah, there you go.
But that was not a jam session. That was just combined with Insephirum.
Yeah.
All right.
But debut album from The Killers, the album Hot Fuss.
I always want to say Hot Fuzz to the point that tonight I'm watching Hot Fuzz. Cause
there's a disambiguation page on the wiki.
Nice.
Yeah.
As there should be.
Yeah. It came out in 2007.
Which one? Hot Fuzz?
Hot Fuzz, yeah.
Yeah,
it sure as hell wasn't Hot Fuzz.
Nope. Because that would we'd be not 20 years. What is 17?
That'd be a weird miss.
It'd be weird for us to do 17-year-old albums.
Yeah.
If you didn't think Arch Podcast was niche enough as is,
right.
Here's the podcast where we review albums that are turning 17. I guess you could almost make an argument for 18. That's kind of a play on becoming an adult, or 21 even.
Yeah. Or 16, 17, just not 17.
Yeah.
Fucking gross.
Very.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's move on from that.
Yeah,
The Killers, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
I had no idea based on like how huge they are in the UK, evidently.
And how he kind of sounds at times, which makes it
a little bit
really irritating to me. So yeah, I was actually surprised by the lack of UK-ness in this band. There's none. None whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Oh my god, I didn't even look him up. He looks awful.
Who, the vocalist?
Yeah.
Sometimes he looks super handsome, though. He's got a jaw.
That. He does have a jaw.
This doesn't happen often, especially in our genre, the genres that we prefer to both listen to and review, but a band that has the same lineup on this album as they do right now.
Yeah. A lot of touring musicians with them, but...
And that makes sense when you get really big. I mean, Paramore now has like a second percussionist and a keyboard player and a second guitarist. And so it's like when you get really big in touring, and Foo Fighters do the same thing. Okay. So that's not too weird. I know their main guitar player / founding member... Which, you know what? I'll go ahead and name the members, and we can talk about that if we want to. But same members today as on the album. We've got Brandon Flowers on lead vocals and keyboards and synthesizer. But he's the lead vocalist, is how you would know him.
Yeah.
Dave Kuning. You agree with that pronunciation?
I agree with your pronunciation.
Okay. Weirdly, I looked up I looked up the vocalist of Bloodbath for the album that we're going to do next week. I did not bother looking up this guy's name.
That's fair.
Which, honestly, this one's probably harder to say. Ronnie Deutsch Jr. on drums and percussion. I'm kidding. Does anyone get the... I mean, odds are decent that at least some people get it.
I mean, a good portion of our listenership, probably.
Yeah, it's a Springfield thing. Or Dayton, because we were in the Dayton market in Springfield, so it's probably a Dayton thing. Ronnie Vanucci. Vanucci. And Mark Stormer, or just Stormer, for backing vocals and bass.
He did backing vocals too?
Yeah.
I don't know how he had time to do any of that, because the bass on this album is so fucking sick.
It is. The bass is sick.
Yeah.
The bass certainly is. Good.
Can't wait to hear where that leads.
Album came out June 7th, 2004, if we didn't say that. Which is right around the time of, like, Unearth and...
Yeah, that summer of magic, really.
Yeah.
The school year just ended. You're not quite on vacation yet. You need something to do.
Yeah, and I was just driving, I think. No, I licensed in 2003, maybe. But I mean, not long after. I know I got mine late because I refused to want to drive. Anyway, so yeah, an album that you all know. Period.
Yeah.
You do.
Unequivocally, no one has not heard of this album.
Inarguable. More so than anything else we've done. I would say more than My Chemical Romance, more than... What did we just do? Jimmy Eat World?
Yeah. Somewhat along those lines. I would say the topic of whether or not the Earth is a globe is more debatable at this point than whether or not you've heard this album.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. That's where we are in the year 2024. But this album kind of falls under not metal, definitely, but a lot of different genres. Synth pop, art rock, new wave, post-punk revival. That was a new one for me. So I didn't realize that post-punk had been a thing long enough to be revived. And then alternative rock.
The definition of it being post means it is neither revived nor...
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't matter.
It's a contradiction of terms.
Yeah. There's a... Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I mean, you can't be revived unless you're post-alive, so...
I mean, post-punk just means after punk.
Yeah.
It neither needs revived nor dead. It just is and exists. Post-punk. This is not the first thing that's going to bother me about this particular...
I feel like we need to dive into this.
Yeah. Listen, here's the thing.
How did you feel about this album overall?
I hate it.
I could not disagree with you less. Or more. I fucking love this album.
I figured. So, first and foremost, I realized that I used to listen to this. Tony Hovater had it. Oh. He was really into like Death Cab for Cutie and all that stuff. Okay. So this was in rotation all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. And I thought I would. This is one of those where I went in with an absolute positive, ready to go, not even in a bad mood, which I am right now. Today was a day. So I'm glad I didn't review it after work today. Rather, I did it when I was ready to go, and yet I still hated it.
Damn it.
So if it was today, then it would probably be like seething hatred rather than just...
Well, that's good.
So here's the thing. The singles are good, except the Smile Like You Mean It. I hate that song. I think literally I've never heard a chorus sap energy out of a song quite like that chorus does, where he just all of a sudden is singing kind of more monotone than the rest, and not out of key, but just on the verge of being out of key with the song. And it's like, that's not what a chorus is for, but that's fine.
I would say he is a terrible singer. Like, I would say that is factual. He's a pretty decent vocalist and like lead member of a band, but he is a terrible singer.
He's not a good singer. I don't like his lyrics. I don't like the one song that's trying to be way too fucking smart about whatever it is. Oh, did I not need to listen to that song? Is that on like a... Oh, Glamorous Indie Rock and Roll was just on my version.
Oh, yeah. I cut that out.
Good. It didn't help by kind of a lot.
Yeah.
I may have to Listen, I still didn't like this no matter how you slice it, but if I didn't have to listen to that pretentious bullshit, it would have been helpful. And the album's too long. I don't understand why this is... just shy of an hour?
So without that song, it's 45 minutes. And I know the song's only 4 minutes, but 45 minutes and 50 minutes are wildly different when it comes to this album in particular.
And normally Spotify points out if it's a special edition or whatever, and I kind of hunt around. It did not do that with
Neither
this
did
one.
Google.
Interesting. It's almost like they also feel like they're UK in some strange way.
Actually kind of literally the rest of the
edition,
world. Like, that song is on every other re-release, just about, it seems.
And I would venture to bet that that's because indie rock wasn't having the douchey thing going on that it was in the early 2000s, which I hate as much of it as I love. It's a really mixed bag for me. It probably has a lot to do with when I heard it or how much I heard it. That's what this inevitably comes down to for me. The singles were singles for a reason, and they're so much better. I mean, I really like track 1 a lot. I think that's a really good song.
Yeah.
Mr. Brightside, though, is great. And I think half the problem is like, I didn't even waste time on Mr. Brightside, or somebody told me, or all these things that I've done because I've heard them 10 billion times.
Right.
All these things that I've done is, despite being the second longest track on the album, maybe third, is one of the best songs. It's a very well thought of composition, and it is. It's in a vacuum. That is just such an amazing song. But if you just listen to the ones you don't know for the most part and try to dig in, for me, I was just like, boy, this is just the same thing over and over and over. And then I went back because I thought maybe I had made a mistake. I'll listen to Mr. Brightside, see if it gets me out of it. But then I get halfway through Mr. Brightside, I'm like, yep. Yeah, it's this fucking song that I've heard 10 trillion times on everything. So there was no saving me from this.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, okay. Two or three of their songs were, because I think all these things that I have done was as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad I didn't. That generally makes for at least interesting results at the end.
Yeah.
It's so unoffensive. It's just...
It is.
It's honestly, mostly it's his vocals and his lyrics. I hate it. I hate his vocals. Like, I don't like his vocal pattern choices. I don't like a lot of the delivery. He, like I said, seems to purposefully sing off key at times. There's a really obnoxious, like, echo on his voice for the whole record, which is really, it's so annoying. It's almost like the non-metal equivalent of the Demigod by Behemoth, where I was like, why the fuck did he double track all his vocals like this? It sounds stupid. And this guy's like, yeah, I found this cool little echo thing. And yeah, whole album save 3 lines. And it's like
did you read on that at all?
After the fact, I kind of read part of their production of on their wiki. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Because that is the exact situation. Like, the guy who produced it, Jeff Saltzman, he's an attorney that like wanted to be a producer, and so they set him up with a little studio and kind of recorded with him. and that was like the one audio effect that he had, and it's just the default setting, so they kind of like used it on the entire album.
That's dumb. That's dumb to do. I understand why some vocals do like a real subtle like filter or something on their voice just to kind of level it out a little bit or remove certain frequencies, or maybe you're right on the cusp of having enough distortion and you don't want to add enough that makes it sound fake, but maybe just enough to kind of nicely round out your voice. I understand all of that stuff. This is just picking something that should at best be on a chorus only and then applying it to the entire album.
I mean, but like everybody in the space was kind of doing that at the time. Like I think back to like the Strokes. Like,
well, but okay, yes, and all of those bands I don't like. I don't know. Like it's that grouping of these bands. Like you had the ones that were super indie, like I don't know, Snow Patrol and who did I just say, Death Cab or Postal Service or whatever it is. But this like particular one that got so big at the time, I got to tell you, part of this might genuinely be that I was around these fans a lot at this time.
Yeah,
that was like 30% of all of my friend groups,
right?
If not more than that. And they were always the ones I liked the least. And it was just like, yeah, I get it. That guitar down-picking, guitar not a riff chord thing that you apparently find interesting, even though...
So musically, these songs are not that.
No, they're not. Musically, I find the album to be fine. It's just its length plus the vocals, and the vocals being as prevalent as they are, really doesn't let me sink my teeth into the rest as much as I'd like. It keeps taking me out of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because you're right. The bass on this, fucking incredible. Drums, incredible.
Yeah, that rhythm section in a genre where you don't have to really try, like it's not a requirement of your job. Those dudes are fucking crushing it on every track.
Could not agree more. Those two alone, like give me an instrumental version of this album and I'll give that a shot and maybe get back with you. Because like I like a lot of other things about it. Just the stuff that kept taking me out of it just constantly took me out of it. There would be little moments where it breathed and I could really just get lost into what was going on. But as soon as this fucking guy started singing again, it was just like, oh, God. All right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm glad I did Bloodbath after this.
That's a good call.
In my listening rotation. I will say the stories about the production are cool. Because, I mean, how often is it you just give a guy a chance?
Right.
And this is the record you end up with? That's bananas. I do have a question for you on the album's wiki. There's a section where it essentially says... So they basically, many of the tracks, this is what it says, quote, many of the tracks were originally recorded as demos, which the band decided to keep for their spontaneity. Really cool idea. Well, that's unquote me. Really cool idea.
Right.
But then if you go just a little further, in 2012, Brandon Flowers told NME that he, quote, felt depressed after hearing the Strokes album, Is This It? That record just sounded so perfect, he said. We threw away everything we were working on, and the only song that made the cut and remained was Mr. Brightside. So that's a little contradictory, right? It makes it sound like they're like, we kept everything as their demos because it sounded cool and spontaneous. And then 3 lines later, it's like, and then Brandon said, we cut everything except Mr. Brightside because of the Strokes.
That's a good point. I didn't read that way. But I also don't.
And I may be reading it wrong too. I just remember thinking like I don't know how to take both of those thoughts.
Right.
Like they seem in complete opposition of one another. That's not a good or a bad thing, by the way. I just wanted your take on it because I was confused.
Unless like they threw away everything that happened before that.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
When did that Strokes album come out?
That Strokes album came out, and he's like right around the same 2001. So it couldn't.
And that's when they That's when they formed.
That's when. Yeah.
So like I don't know. He was writing some stuff as a band before that and was like, oh fuck this, and then decided to go in a different direction, and then like.
Yeah, that could be. It just the vocalist was in a different band right up until the point that he joined in 2001. So it just seems like I don't know. I have no opinion on that. It just confused me a little is all. I didn't know how to process the information.
In the hell?
What?
So I clicked on the wiki link for the Is This It album, and I remember that album cover. I remember the US album cover, but there's an international cover that's listed on like first in the main page of that album's wiki, and those two album covers could not.
They're not the same.
Be any further from.
Nope. And this wasn't the Strokes album, right? It was the next one with Reptilia and all that. Reptilia. Yeah.
This one had Someday on it though, so I
don't remember.
Think that counts.
It could, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I just genuinely, I've been wanting to ask you about that because I was like, what does this mean? Did they not keep it all? Anyway, okay.
I'm still shook by this international cover for the.
Yeah, it's a hell of a choice.
That is a hell of a choice.
That's an early 2000s choice for an album cover if I've ever seen one.
You're not. You are so dead right. It's. Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's tasteful, but you wouldn't do it right now. It'd be like you'd be in the studio like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then the producer would be like, You sure? Is that what you want to do?
I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying think it through.
I'm just saying you understand the potential consequences of this particular action, and if you do, this is your album. But what about this one? That's not that?
Look, geometry and constellation and colors.
No one can have a problem with this version. Anyway, so you really liked it.
I did really like it. I had a blast.
Hot Fuss. That's good.
Yeah, because I had never heard this album 10 million times. And I had never heard. I actually think at some point, maybe I had heard the collection of songs that comprise the album, but I don't think I had ever actually listened to the album. So it was a genuinely new experience for me. It's not one I'm going to go back to, like, in my regular rotation. So for this purpose, it was really easy for me to enjoy.
That's cool. I think part of it too was like, because I've forgotten about that completely. I've forgotten most of that section of my life entirely at this point. Because who cares? It's pointless. But just Hovader just doing things to do them and like be above it all, and then half the friend group would be in agreement, and it was like, oh my god. Like, I don't care if it sounds stupid. Can we please just put At the Gates back in, please? Like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it was fun. All right. Or anything else? Can we, like, Nirvana? Even at the time, I wasn't on board with them, and I'm like, can we listen to, that's got to be trendy soon. Can we listen to that? Like, can we do anything else that all of you hipster doofuses want to do that isn't this, please?
Fucking
so that came
doofuses.
I got like 10 seconds into the first song. I'm like, huh, I know like the words to this. And then a few songs in, I'm like, I now fully remember the 5th of November. Not about November 5th of 16, whatever.
Not explicitly.
No.
I don't even think you could dig deep enough to find it in there.
No. That'd be tough. That's an ask.
So Jenny,
that's like a give me a week,
is code. You can anagram Jenny into Fox. And then friend of mine, obvious 5th of November.
Of course. Yeah. Everybody knows. I mean, they did have those songs that were part of the Murder trilogy or whatever story thing.
I did read about that.
On.
I'd be curious to know like the lyrics and see how that all fleshed out, and to hear the third song.
Agreed. And it's like, don't read the lyrics.
Okay.
Just don't. He really thinks he's smart.
He doesn't look like he's smart.
Hey, Stan, look at me smart. Like, that's how smart.
Am I smart? It's an amazing reference.
Mac and cheese. Yeah,
Didn't you
I gotta
turn
tell
it
you,
off? You made fun of my head. Now you've ruined a pot.
Reel it in. I'm not gonna have a lot of track by track breakdown on this.
That's fair. Yeah.
I am surprised by how little I liked Smile Like You Mean It. I really don't like it. I especially don't like the fact that it starts off with an emotion that when all of the music comes in, it completely skips. The intro of Smile Like You Mean It took me right into Cyberpunk, and I was like, okay, sick. And then everything comes in and takes it from melancholy to joyous in like a second. And I'm like,
get that.
Okay, cool. I didn't want something different.
That's the first time I picked up like the heavy Interpol influence.
A lot of Interpol influence, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of Interpol, honestly, a lot of stuff in theory that should work for me. I did get to a point in one of the tracks where I legitimately admitted that I don't know what my problem is with this exactly. Like, I almost can't, like, I can't pinpoint it. I have some ideas, and I don't know if those ideas are just stronger in my brain than they should be. I don't know. It's not like an offensive sounding album. It's not, I mean, again, you've heard like a third of it.
Right.
If you've never listened to it. So you know what it is. And Mr. Brightside is good. And somebody told me he has one of the best choruses ever made. Like, it's the drum beat with the dance with the offset hi-hat hits and shit. I mean, it's incredible. There's so much good going on, and then I just hear that douche sing, and I'm like, he doesn't even seem like a bad guy, by the way. I don't mean to call him a douche. It seems fine. Oh, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have a lot to say about the songs. I'm not saying there isn't a lot there. I mean, I think like On Top is pretty different and cool from the rest of the non-singles, which I kind of compartmentalize this album between those two things a little bit. Midnight Show.
Midnight Show's sick. Kind of back in the action after Believe Me, Natalie, which is a little slower. It's slower, but not, again, because of what the drummer's doing. And this is probably one of those places where you're like, dude, fucking with the vocals, because like the vocal delivery of those lyrics is very long for the tempo of the drums, which I think is kind of cool because I haven't heard it a million times.
Yeah, but what I really want to hear is just everything else for a second. Just give me a second of it.
Right.
Like, give me a little reprieve from your intellect.
And
like,
the trumpets at the end?
Dude, musically, I have nothing bad to say about it, genuinely, except some of the choices of emotion where it's like, I don't know if those, like I said, that one song that starts off that made me think of Cyberpunk, like, I didn't get the choice to so dramatically change the feel of that into something else when the feel was really sick. But, you know, as artists, we tend to want to do stuff like that at times just to, you know, put a stick in the spokes sort of thing. I don't have anything against it wholeheartedly, but...
Okay, so there appears to be an album instrumental playlist of this album on YouTube, so...
I'll check that out.
I'm actually really excited for that, because not only do I love instrumental albums...
Same. Yep.
Man.
It could just have been drums and bass, and I'd listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it would probably get old pretty fast no matter how good it is, because it's just drums and bass. But at the same time, it's like, dude, they're having the fun.
They are.
On the album that everyone else seems to be combating for some reason. Like, it's like, man, you listen to your drummer. He's clearly having a blast. Like, so why not everyone have a little more fun in this part? maybe. I don't know. Or not.
If you're interested in just drums and bass, you could always check out the Omnific. They're pretty sick.
I want to say I have checked out the Omnific.
Because I've told you about them.
Yeah.
They released a new album recently. It's sick.
Is it still just drums and bass?
Still just drums and bass.
Sick. Well, when you have like 6-string basses, it really starts to...
2 bass players, you blur in the line.
Yeah, it's like, it's only bass, but I mean... Is it? No, but it's really sick, though. It is really sick.
Slap the bass.
I would say it's up to you how to, like, it's your choose your own adventure here.
That's true.
There are certain bands that get so big, it takes my ability to care about their history away a little bit, because it's like no matter what happened, you still ended up just a massive thing doing just fine for yourself. I know they went through some ups and downs, and the starting guitar player left for a while, then they went on hiatus, got back together, and did that whole song and dance. But, they played for Barack Obama.
That's sick. Cool. I didn't do that.
So that's kind of cool. They honestly seem like great dudes. Not going to lie, all their opinions and things that they stood for over the years seem solid. I don't know. I just didn't like the album at all.
Anymore. Didn't like the album anymore.
Yes. If I did at one time, that ship has since sailed.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty hard. But yeah.
So I'm curious to see how this shakes out, because our rating system is somewhat
it doesn't really take it doesn't take that into consideration. The rating pisses me off. Yeah. If I'm being really really honest with you. Which, you know what, there are weeks where I'm like, we should really change enjoy or impact at the time or whatever it is, just because I'm personally like trying to like take up arms for whatever it is that we're listening to.
Right.
And then you get to one like this where I just have to like tip my hat to the two of us like 2 years ago coming up with something that is almost bulletproof to subjectivity to an extent. I mean, artwork is always going to be production, kind of. Yeah. It's like 2/3 objective, 1/3 subjective. Impact at the time can't really be argued. Enjoyed listening today. Well, that's a whole thing. But like, we kind of did a good job of making pissy little me, on a Saturday afternoon, not enjoying this, having to go shit. Well,
I guess
I can't wait for this to outscore fucking, I don't know, Behemoth or something. Yeah. But so anyway, I guess review. Yeah. Well, Josh.
Yeah.
What did you think of the artwork on Hot Fuss by the Killers?
Hot Fuss by the Killers. I gave the album artwork a 4. And I started with a 5, but then I kind of talked myself out of it. So it's just a photograph, and it is a photograph by...
Look at this photograph.
Exactly. It's a photograph. But by a gentleman, Seth Goldfarb, I believe. But it's kind of it's blue. It's of some buildings. There's some, I believe, Chinese characters.
It's blue. That's the best call out.
It is.
It's blue. It is blue.
It's like a foggy day.
A pleasant blue. Yeah, it's a pleasant
it is a
blue.
Very pleasant blue. It's a noticeable blue.
Yeah, I agree.
And then like you got the Killers. That's kind of like the names up in lights kind of thing, but it's not overly flashy. And then the words "Hot Fuss." It's like you'd pick that up and be like, I don't know what this album is about. I'm gonna listen to it. And that's actually why I didn't give it a 5, because you would pick it up and you'd be like, I don't know what this album is about.
Right. Right.
This could be a book on tape. It looks boring enough to be that, but like, it's just really well composed in my opinion.
I agree. Unfortunately, I have a line that says, "I hated the listen through so much to this that I want to shit on everything about it, but
Right.
I'm going to try to be my best to be objective." I love their logo. I just do. I think it conveys the band perfectly.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like those old Merv Griffin like or game shows from the 70s and like the, you know, so I love that. The color palette's awesome. The font's cool underneath. I do kind of, for almost the same reasons that you gave it a 4, brought me to a 3, just because it's like, as well done as it is.
Right.
Like, now you could argue Zayo the same way, and I gave Zayo a 5. So I understand that maybe it's just it hitting me with a particular sound and mixing well together in my head. I'm not saying the buildings add nothing, and I know that there's like a story of what they stand for, but like, it's almost, I don't know why they're there. Like, I would almost like it just as much, if not more, if they just weren't there. And then I could focus a little more on just the perfect shading of the blue background. I mean, the way that they've done the shadow on that is really well done. So yeah, it's like, I don't know, it did make me watch The Dark Knight a little bit. So
yeah, that's a super good call. And actually, there seems to be some discrepancy. This portion says that the photograph was Matthias Claimer. So maybe he took the original photograph and then the other guy kind of suited it for the album cover. Not sure.
Sure. Could be. So it's fine. There's nothing bad about it. I gave it a 3. It couldn't go much higher just because as much as it could potentially tie me to the album, it kind of could easily not tie me to the album too. Like you said, if it was an audiobook, I'd be like, yeah, sick. Yeah,
I'd listen to that.
Yeah, same. Because it'd probably be about a group of killers in China where the photograph's from. But yeah, so I gave it a 3. It's fine. It is fine. I don't like hate it and I don't love it. So
yeah,
middle of the road. I am getting a little sick of having to praise all these productions that are gonna be good because the music lends itself to a good production and isn't difficult to produce well. But what did you think of the production then versus now?
Man, I gave it a 5. Like, it holds up. The sound is huge. Every little piece and part sounds great. And he did capture like everything that bass is doing, everything the drums are doing. And actually, when you've got a guy mastering the tracks whose name is Brian Big Bass Gardner, I'm not surprised at how it came out. But it has, and he has a track record. Sound. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it does. It's really good. I knocked it to a 4 because of the vocal effect.
That's fair. Super fair.
His voice has nothing to do with production. You know what I mean? I mean, legitimately, even if I hate your voice, that doesn't mean it can't be produced well. Just it's a shame because that means I'm hearing you perfectly.
Right.
And you just, you know? So it's okay that I don't like his voice. That doesn't really take into consideration here, but I just can't believe they decided. It's just the whole time. Anyway, we've talked about it, so it knocked it down to a 4.
That's
for
fair.
me. And weirdly, I am interested in the next one because I had to rate this pretty begrudgingly, especially after we did something in the jam session. Necrophagist.
Oh yeah.
Necrophagist came into mind a lot on my scores here.
Interesting.
Did not.
I mean, they're pretty much the same band. Necrophagist,
for
the Killers.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. If you don't know why that's funny, please go listen to Necrophagist. You've already listened to the Killers. You don't need to go do that. But
that is true. So I gave Impact at the time, like, I gave it a 2 because it didn't influence a whole lot of what we were doing. Not in the way like Eagles of Death Metal did. Sure. Not in the way some of the other bands that you could kind of maybe push toward this genre. Like even Jimmy Eat World probably more influenced us directly. But like I was alive in 2004 when this came out. So like it had an effect one way or the other, be it through social circles or being on Guitar Hero and just making me want to play music. Like,
yeah, I agree. I gave it a 3. This was my proof to myself that I could truly be as objective as humanly possible when I don't want to be, because I couldn't escape it. It was just everywhere, and maybe it didn't impact me in the way. We never defined impact in this context before. We've just
good for us.
Yeah, and we've just taken the way that it should probably be used given the circumstances. And I mean, you could almost talk me into this being a 4 for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Just because it was like half of any group of people I was hanging out with, skating, metal shows, whatever it was, I was surrounded in this in the Strokes, and I couldn't escape it. So even if the impact was making me audibly upset toward other people, which I am wont to do, it's an impact whether I like it or not. I guess we never really defined whether it was a good one.
They may not directly affect your behavior, but the walls of your prison are impacting your life.
Indeed. Well said by you. So I landed on a 3 because, it had nothing to do with anything else. But I was in this. Whether I had no choice. No choice whatsoever to be just in this muck.
Right.
So, Josh, how much did you enjoy listening to the album today?
Dude, I gave it a 5. I fucking loved it. I was in a great mood, though, so I could easily see myself being like, if I had picked it up on like I had a rough day and now I got to listen to this, I'd be like, this isn't all Mr. Brightside.
Yes.
And it's way too long. So like I could easily get to where you were with it under the right circumstances. Not even that's where you were coming from.
Yeah.
I was ready. It was sunny. I was driving. I heard barrel. And then I heard all those dance beats and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. No, that's sick. I gotta tell you, if you cut 10 minutes off this album, I do think my opinion would have been impacted way more than you would think.
Right.
I know 10 minutes isn't a long time, but 10 minutes is when you're focusing on a single task.
It just 2 or 3 songs. I mean, like, you could easily cut those.
Yeah, or at least cut down some of the songs that so easily could have sat in that, like, 3.5 minute. Which there's a reason that every producer on Earth knows that that's the right length of a song for a single. It's because even if people love or hate or are neutral or whatever it is, they're never going to be that angry because 3.5 minutes is just on the precipice of not being long enough.
Right.
So as long as you can just get to that next song in that amount of time, you're going to be okay.
That was my biggest thing that I know, like some of it does definitely get repetitive.
Yeah. So music alone got me to a 3.
Yeah.
I had to really inch my way up for a 1, I'm not going to lie. I want to say my original note said, fuck this thing. That's all it said.
Fuck this thing out of 5.
But when 20. I went back and, listened to the other songs and realized I was doing the album as a whole a disservice by not listening to those, thinking that I was just being efficient. Like, I get it. So I got to a 3. I mean, I'm not going to say I like the album. I don't. And luckily, I don't ever need to recommend it to anybody because unless you're 7 years old or... That's probably about it. You know who this is. Like, that's I mean, unless maybe you're overtly Christian and you avoid anything that, like, makes your hips swivel.
We don't dance in this town.
So yeah, I still got to a 13 and you got to a 16.
That's great.
Yeah. So this is still rated 29. This is high.
Yeah, it is high. Not as high as I expected, but also not as low as it could have been.
Yeah, it could have easily been. Given my mood right now, it could have been way lower.
Yeah.
But we have a duty to this podcast to try our, I know how I am. You know how I am. I'm just going to do my best with not being so much me at all times and maybe try to dial it back a tad bit.
Put a compressor on it.
Yeah, exactly. A limiter. Yeah. All right. So
I'm so curious to know, like, if you picked a favorite song. And I don't think we're gonna do the thing, because there's like 4 singles and like everybody's heard Mr. Brightside. It doesn't need to be.
Odds are good you have them on your own playlist already anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not adding this to like, check this thing out, Mr. Brightside. You saw that in the Cheerios commercial 2 weeks ago. But like, no, there's no reason to do that. I am happy that you let me pick first, because my favorite is track 1. There's probably a lot that informs that, but I think he kind of went for it a little more.
He did.
He had some like in his voice. He didn't sound like he was like really about to take a nap. Like, he was really going for it. He didn't scream or anything. He got some grit at times even, which was interesting. Which, you know what makes the same vocal effect over and over and over sound a little different? Doing your vocals a little differently. What a shock. So yeah, mine was track 1. Jenny was a friend of mine. And I honestly, that song is legitimately, I'll go back to that. Like, that's a good song.
It's a banger.
Yeah. What about you?
I honestly had a hard time picking, because there are a couple that are in that vein that you could probably get lumped together. That was definitely a front runner. Weirdly, Andy, You're a Star was a front runner. And I ended up coming around to even like Believe Me, Natalie, but I ultimately picked On Top. I thought that was my second pick.
Yep. Great song. Well, it's better than... It's my second favorite one. And I did, obviously, specifically try not to choose the ones. There was no reason.
Somebody told me it's amazing, but everybody on the planet has heard it.
Yeah.
This album is 6 times platinum. It peaked at number 7 on the Billboard 200 in 2004. Like, everybody has it. And I don't think we ever said, but it was released by Island Records. And they've just been holding down the pop scene for forever. If you're on the radio, you're on Island.
Almost. Yeah, almost certain. All right. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I'm out of pizza. I want pizza now, and I'm going to have to take a round one and cut it into a hockey stick shape.
Well, fancy meeting you all here, past 2 decades too late listeners. This is Future Brad again. Holy fuck, I hope this does not keep on happening. 2 weeks in a row with some technical difficulties. So, Josh just talked about hockey stick shaped pizza. Sometimes I have to go back in the editing of an episode and delete certain things for various reasons. And then maybe later in the episode, because we have no idea that's going to happen, we keep talking about it. Now, I have a terrible sense of humor, so sometimes I'll just leave it in out of context even after editing because I think it's funny. I have no idea why, and it probably isn't. However, in this particular case, you're going to have no idea where the pizza thing came from. I didn't even find it funny out of context, so I wanted to explain. Earlier in the episode, Josh and I had a very long conversation about hockey stick-shaped pizza. We think from the 90s, and we think Little Caesars made it. We're not sure. Turns out we couldn't find anything about it. Actually, if any of you know, or even if you all remember it and just can't find anything about it as well, and we just to let us know we're not crazy, please comment and give us some support there because we really couldn't find anything. Anyways, so we had that conversation. The audio went nuts. I had to delete it, even though there was really no other reason except that my audio, I have no idea what happened. So I had to remove that whole thing. Then Josh brings this up, and then it goes kind of right into our Instagram handle. So deleting it seemed odd, but it wasn't funny enough to leave on its own. So there you go. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Please take a picture and send it to me, and I'll make a post on our Instagram at TDTL_podcast. Check us out there. I posted the thing about the All Shall Perish picture today. So I hope you enjoyed that. Do you know what is potentially confusing? Being a music review podcast that posts covers of albums as part of their reviews for their podcast, posting one off cycle, and then having to explain in the thing that we didn't review this. I was already half in it, and I was posting it, so it's out there. If you're confused, sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We pick our favorite songs as we did a few moments ago. Those will be added to the 2 Decades Too Late or TDTL favorites on Spotify. Ever growing, interesting playlist. This is no different. We're literally adding the Killers to it. So,
and not the songs you've heard, maybe.
Nope. And compared to my Canary in a Coal Mine, that is now I have forgotten their name. All of this Pig Destroyer. I always think, I can't believe that this song's going to be on a Spotify playlist with Pig Destroyer.
Yeah.
And I felt especially like that. So yeah,
that's all I got. Yeah, I guess with a ramp bamp barrel. You've been Brad and I've been Josh, and we've been 2 Decades Too Late.